Arrows Baseball Preview 2024. Brandon Wells and Kris Mowry. Thanks for joining us. We're going to have head coach Rick Goff, assistant coach A.J. Beer, Alex Grissinger, and Michael Franz coming up in a little bit. But first, Kris, hey, we are so excited for the season. What are your expectations for this year? You know, no Camden Mowry this year.
No,
so first time in a few years. But
first time since he was 3 that I'm not going to watch the kid play baseball in the spring or summer months. So maybe a little transition for me and completely removed from the dad hat, right? And just the fan hat. So, as we talk about, life happens and things continue to go forward, right?
Yep.
And we had a great time mentioning him, watching him throughout all the number of years. So it was a lot of fun.
And Kris, the Arrows 12-12 last year, 8-6 in the OCC, turned a third place finish.
Yep.
Not exactly what everybody had hoped for in the program, but got a lot of guys coming back, but they do have some holes. What are you looking forward to this year?
Well, a lot of position changes.
Yep.
We graduated a shortstop, a center fielder, a right fielder, a DH, a relief pitcher, and a utility player.
Is that it?
Other than that, we're set.
Right.
So, we're going to have Alex Grissinger slide over to shortstop from third base.
And we're going to catch up with him and talk with him about that.
Absolutely. We'll have Michael Franz slide over from left field to center field.
And we're going to catch up with him and talk about that.
And then the thing about this team that's going to be intact is going to be the staff, the pitching staff. And that's really, when you look at the Arrows in 24, it starts there, and you could argue it stops there.
Right.
If you have the ability to win games 2-1, 3-1, 2-0, so be it. A win's a win. Doesn't mean that you have to go out there and MLB pound the ball 11-8. That's not what baseball's about. And it's certainly not high school level. You don't have a roster of 9 kids that are going to go out there and thump it, and talking about velo and backspin and all this other stuff that, frankly, for most baseball fans is over their head. Right? We just want to hit the ball up the middle, get good contact on it, position, run around the bases, and get station to station, whether that means we're bunting the ball or hitting runs or moving up on pass balls, whatever it is, we've got to be aggressive and take that next step. And my point is, the staff, if we can get a couple runs on the board, you would think with this staff, we've got a chance to win.
And let's talk about that staff, right? Led by senior Luke Bryant, Logan Folk, Tyler Holt, Miles Farnsworth, a freshman who people are looking forward to big things from him, and Owen Shade, and then maybe Alex Grissinger as well with some relief innings, but they're deep in that staff.
Hugely deep. We talked to Coach Goff earlier this week, and he mentioned, you got your Tuesday starter in Bryant, and you got your Wednesday starter in Falk, right? That's penciled in.
Yep.
Actually, that's Sharpied in. But then you've got a Tyler Holt that could come in. If Bryant goes 6 or so innings, let's say hypothetically on a Tuesday, maybe that's an Owen Shade to close it out if Bryant's out of pitches, and then you've got Tyler Holt to come and relieve Falk on Wednesday. So it gives the staff, the coaching staff, a lot of dynamics to play with and a lot of moving chess pieces that you're not locked in to say, we've only got 3 pitchers, and we've got to do this on Tuesday to try to win. And then, you know what? We'll worry about Wednesday when it's not like that.
It might rain tomorrow, right?
Yeah, exactly right. In looking at some of these stats, the Arrows in 23 had a 3.26 ERA. Our whip was pretty good at 1.5. So that's walks, hits, innings pitched.
Right.
1.5, you can live with that.
Yeah, at the high school level, absolutely.
You can live with that. So the one thing that's also interesting when we were doing some of this prep work, the Arrows left 148 men on base.
Wow.
In 156 innings.
So it's a matter of getting timely hits, not so much getting guys on base. It's a matter of doing it earlier before you get an out or two, getting that leadoff guy on base, moving guys around, but getting clutch hits.
Yeah, clutch hits are going to be vital. And then back to the pitching thing real quick. We got out of situations by leaving 148 men on base with our staff in 156 innings. So we basically left a guy stranded every inning. So, I think the coaching staff, I should say, is going to be looking for more clean innings this year. 3 up, 3 down. And can you really make hay when you get to 6, 7, 8 in the lineup, or 8, 9, 1? Can you make some hay and get a quick inning where it's 12, 14 pitches?
Yeah, and that to me means those guys need to be aggressive, particularly against the bottom of the order or against guys that they are dominating earlier in the game potentially as well, where you're let's go right at them. Let's not nibble. We don't need to waste pitches.
No.
Let's go fastball, and pound it at those 7, 8, 9 guys especially.
You're a baseball guy. What's the best first pitch?
Fastball, I mean,
strike.
Strike one.
It's a strike.
I mean,
right?
generally a fastball, but But a strike is right.
Strike,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And, we watched last year, I can't tell you how many times we were ahead in the account 0-2, 1-2 on the bump.
Yeah.
And we walked a guy.
Right.
Or we hit a guy.
Yeah.
And as you know, we've done this long enough. I consider hit by pitch a walk, right?
Oh, yeah, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to your point, when we get hitters down in the count, a curveball is great, but a 58-foot curveball is not great.
We talk a little bit about hitting and about us leaving guys on base, throughout the season, bouncing back and forth here between pitching and hitting. And again, Brandon Wells, Kris Mowry, Arrows Baseball Preview 2024, and we'll have coaches and players coming up right after this here in a bit. Offensively, Kris, I think you talked about it. We have to come up with clutch hitting.
Yep.
You're going to hear those guys talk a little bit about our approach this year offensively. What do you look for our approach?
For our approach to me, it's I don't mind if we reach on an error, if we hit a bullet back up the middle over top of the pitcher's head, or we draw a walk. You have to get men on base.
Mm-hmm.
You can't score a run unless you get a guy on base.
Right.
And it doesn't matter to me how you do that, frankly.
Yeah.
Any one of those variables I mentioned. Or, it's as simple as if there's a guy on first and there's a ball hit to the third baseman, you think that's going to be a double play.
Yeah.
You don't go in maliciously to second base.
Right.
But you go in there hard, legally, at the bag, trying to break that. Just the little things that this game presents. Unlike a lot of other sports, there's 1,000 little things that add up to big things in baseball. So my approach would be, if I'm recommending, is just get the ball in play.
Yeah.
Cut down on the strikeouts.
Right. Make kids make plays on the other side,
That's
too.
absolutely right. Last year we hit 267 as a team. We scored just over 5.5 runs a game on average.
Yep.
And then in the OCC, those games typically seem to be more tight games than when you go on the road, right? And that has a lot to do with the starting pitching.
Yeah.
Your league starters are usually your better pitchers. So it's going to be interesting to see out of the gate, Worcester. Week 2, Mount Vernon.
Yeah.
Week 3, New Philly.
And that doesn't even include Tiffin Columbian at the front end, and you've got Finley in there as well mixed in.
It's front loaded.
Yeah.
So Coach
got to
Goff
get off to a good start.
Have to. And that's the thing that I think, if you're being honest, any team says if we don't get off to a hot start and we fall below expectations early, it can have rippling effects the rest of the season. So this Arrows squad is going to have to get, to your point, off to a good start to keep that momentum swinging and that graph up and to the right.
Well, we're going to have Coach Goff and company in a minute, and they're going to tell you more about the season upcoming. But let's talk, before we get to that, about the facility and all the upgrades that have happened and our generous sponsors this year.
Well, the one that we're going to have a ceremonial burial for, my dear friend, $7 Creek.
It's gone, basically, is what you're trying to say.
Probably not going to have his name mentioned as frequently as possible.
I hope not.
This year.
Yeah.
Our last broadcast, we donated about $108, I think it was, out of the board budget.
And if you're unfamiliar, there's a creek that runs right next to Bud Plank Field at Archer Stadium, Archer Park.
Archer Arrows Park.
Archer Arrows Park. And with the lower backstop that we've had for years, a lot of foul balls are going right into that creek, and they're toast. So part of the upgrade this year is a new, higher, longer, wider, all the above backstop that's actually also closer to home plate that's going to keep a lot of balls from going in there.
Yeah, so that backstop is 30 foot tall,
Yeah.
anchored by 4 8-inch posts and then netting all the way around. Yeah. You couple that with what I'm really proud about, too, is the entire field is encased now.
Yeah.
There's no easy access points on either side, visitor or home, to where a player or a fan or a coach, anybody.
Yep.
I've always believed, once you lock the gate behind you, you're there for work, right? And it's not, out and back and out and back.
Yeah.
And we've got that now at Bud Plank Field at Archer Arrows Park, which is awesome. New dugouts, new scoreboard, backstop. We did more field improvement. We put drain tile in. And then you, my friend, and I are going to be setting and calling these games from the Bill Harris Dealerships press box, which is brand new.
Right?
It is awesome. We were there yesterday, and to say it's pretty sweet would be a massive understatement.
And I want to make sure we mention for folks out there that may have accessibility issues, there'll be come sometime in April, I think, when the weather permits. As Sarver Paving has been out here preparing and getting ready for the asphalt to come all the way down from King Road all the way down, and not King Road, I'm sorry, Catherine Avenue, all the way down to the stadium, so that you're able to get in there much easier if you have a wheelchair, a scooter, a walker, or you're just struggle with your mobility. So looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, well, that would be known as the Worcester Walkway
Yeah.
as we get that all finished up, and as fans, and we welcome them in this year. I'll hit one more point on that. That walkway goes from Catherine, and it goes all the way to the press box.
Yeah.
And underneath all the bleacher viewing areas, asphalt. On the other side of the new press box, in the visitor section where the bleachers set, all asphalt as well. So the days of walking from Catherine up to a game in the mud are
over.
gone.
All right, last question I have for you before we get to Coach Goff and Coach Beer and our players. Troy Dogs coming back this year?
Oh, baby, we got a sponsor for Troy Dogs. Thanks to Ryan Evans and Whitaker Myers, Troy Dogs and the Triple Noise Pepper Butter will forever be known here. Whitaker Myers, Troy Dog Special. So be on the lookout for those.
Right, last year was the first time I had ever had pepper butter, and so it became a tradition pretty quickly of every game. Troy Shade bringing us the goods.
And your taste buds are similar to mine. Let's heat it up a little bit. But when he got to Triple Noise, I had to call Uncle. That was wildly hot.
Well, thanks for joining us. Hey, stay tuned for Coach A.J. Beer and Coach Rick Goff and the players, and we'll be back to wrap it up right after this. Welcome in. We're here with A.J. Beer and Rick Goff, baseball coaches here at Ashland High School. We're excited for the season to get underway. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
All right, first question. I know Kris wants to jump right into talking about the field, right? But we're going to hold that for a minute. I just want to ask you guys about the season. Start with head coach Rick Goff. What are your expectations for the year?
I'm excited. I believe that we've got a good group of kids coming back. I think we've got strong pitching. The kids have worked exceptionally hard this offseason. We've had a great lifting program. Also, we've had a number of off-season workouts led by players, and I think it's really shown. I think we're actually, what excites me most, we're bigger and stronger than we have been in 4 or 5 years.
You mean strength from the weight room, or just in general height? And define that a little deeper.
When you look at our seniors, they've grown up.
Okay.
They look like they're young men,
Okay.
which they are. And I can tell the way they're hitting the ball, the way they're throwing the ball, they're just a lot stronger.
Yeah, you never quite know when that's going to happen for guys, right? Because everybody matures at a different rate, and
That's
sometimes
absolutely right.
just those guys going from boys to men, not to mention an old school 90s R&B. But, yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. Coach, what about you?
Yeah, no, I'm really excited too, like Coach Goff is. I think the work ethic has been there for all of our guys 9 through 12. I mean, we've had 9th graders in our lifting program that are working extremely hard, as well as our seniors. Our seniors are trying to lead and lead by example. So I'm really excited. On paper, I think we're going to be pretty good, and I think they're really working hard to show how good they can be.
Let's jump into the improvements at the field.
I knew it was coming.
I'm going to lead with that until we have opening day up here. I'm really happy about that. You and I had a chance to be there yesterday, and tour the thing, and we were in the press box, and the Taj Mahal, really. I mean, let's be honest. It's really awesome. The way it's set out, it's laid out, it's awesome. Forever to be known as Bud Plank Field at Arch Arrows Park going forward. What do you guys think about the improvements? How do you think it's going to help your team? I said on air last year that when the improvements were done, it was going to put us on par with the top end of the conference. It was going to put us on par with all the schools we travel to and go to their parks. And in my opinion, I think we've done that. Would you gentlemen agree? And then talk a little bit about the improvements.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's going to make a stronger interest from the athletes. I think it's going to help get kids out to come play baseball. I think it definitely improves the fan experience. I think we hopefully will be able to draw more fans, which will generate more excitement. And it's just, I don't know, I'm speechless sometimes when I'm sitting in the dugout that it's come this far. This quick.
Yeah, when I moved to Ashland in 2007, it's basically a brand new facility since then, because it was nothing like what we have now.
Right.
I mean, it's just totally different, right? Coach, what do you think? And I see the wheels turning over there.
He played there. keep in mind.
I did play there, and it's come a long way just in the short time I've been out as a player. But funny you asked, because I asked Coach Goff. We were actually on the baseball field a couple days ago, and I asked Coach Goff, did you ever think in your tenure of an assistant and now a head coach that you would get all of this? And he shook his head and said, no, I thought we could get a backstop. And a backstop led to press box, dugouts, scoreboard, tiling. So we were 100% and very, very much grateful and bought into the new facility.
Only thing we need now is a retractable roof.
Hey, I'll take it.
Anybody
For days like today.
Anybody wants to give $300 million, we can build a retractable roof. Chris.
Just tee it up, Wells. See what happens and walks through the door.
You never know if you don't ask,
That's right. So one thing you've instituted the last couple of years, which I think has been really, really awesome, and you've scheduled a lot of first pitch guests. And I think the guest thing, from my perspective, is really awesome. And in our broadcast, we always have a guest join us in every sport for every home contest that we broadcast. But, it's kind of a community outreach program as well that I look at it as. And talk a little bit about some of the guests you have coming into throughout the first pitch, whether they're, ACS administration or teachers or community members, et cetera.
This year, we've got a pretty good lineup. We've got Coach Scott Valentine, head football coach. He's going to come in and throw the first pitch out. I've got Taft principal Steve McDonald, who's a former coach, and going to kind of try to tie in a kids' day with that. He's going to bring some of his kiddos over from Taft.
Nice.
And we'll probably announce them in the starting lineup. I've got John T. Van, board member.
Board president.
Board
Yeah,
board president that is going to throw out a first pitch.
Yeah. I want to see John. I want to see if he's bringing some heat or if he's throwing a slider. We'll see.
More of a golfer.
Yeah, I know. That's why I want to see him out there.
Let's see, off the top of my head, I've got Dan Phillip, who's a community member. He's an alumni. He's a former minor league baseball catcher for the Detroit Tigers. He's going to come in and throw. He's also going to be our guest speaker at our team dinner.
Nice.
Who else have I mentioned here? I don't want to leave anybody out. Some other exciting things we got going. Towards the end of the season, we're going to have an associated charities night again.
Nice.
It's going to be a little bit different this year. I've tried to get the teams to bring stuff in, and that's been so-so. This year, we're going to have a class competition here amongst the high school students for the week of, I think it's May 3rd to the 9th, and they are going to try to bring in as much as they can, and have our baseball guys will collect it, store it, count it, and then on that Friday night, I believe it is Norwalk. We are going to announce the class winners and get them a plaque and put it outside the athletic office.
Very cool.
So I hope that goes well. I'm really excited about that.
Well, we know a couple men inside the building that can help drive that message, and Packard and Walter and several of the others in here, and I'm sure they'll buy in 100% with that and get that message out for sure.
So what expectations for the season? Sort of, obviously the OCC is always tough with baseball. What are the hopes? What are the expectations within the conference and the regular season?
Well, I mean, if you break our goals down a little bit, more importantly, we want to compete in every game. Last year, sometimes if we got down 2 or 3 runs, we kind of shut it down. And I'm not saying we gave up, but we didn't compete.
Yeah.
So number one, we're pushing to compete 7 innings this year. Number 2, obviously, we want to do well in the conference. I think as a whole, the conference is going to be tougher because Lexington's got everybody back. Of course, Worcester's Worcester. New Philly should be strong again. Mount Vernon, they brought in a couple players that are pretty good. So it should be, the top end of the league is going to be competitive. So obviously an OCC championship, and then obviously we want to have a good tournament run.
Yeah.
Let's host a game.
That'd be awesome.
Well, I'd like to host a game, but I don't want it to be that play-in game where
Right.
then we have to go in and play the number 1 seed game 2.
That's
So
Yeah, for sure. What about you for expectations and whatnot?
Yeah, I agree with Coach Goff. We need to compete, number one. But number 2, I think the league is going to be better this year. And I think our goal is to score 1 run every inning. You want to score 1 run every inning. And the philosophy behind that is you play 7 innings, you score 7 runs, you got a pretty good shot at winning the game if you score 7 runs.
Good math.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got taught that here at Ashland.
He had to leave somewhere to get taught the good
I
man.
did. But regardless, I think we want to score one run every inning, and we want to be competitors in the league. And I mean, we're starting out, we have a new philosophy, Hair on Fire. We're starting out Hair on Fire with Worcester. And right after Worcester is Mount Vernon, right after Mount Vernon is New Philly. So we are in the meat of the league schedule to start.
What are we doing before? Do we have scrimmages? What's the preseason look like if the weather allows?
We've got our four allotted scrimmages. We've got Crestview, South Central, Shelby, which will be a good test,
Hillsdale.
and Hillsdale. So,
Okay.
not in that particular order, but
Sure.
it'd be nice to get a farther away school, but I like to schedule local because then you have a little wiggle room.
Yeah.
You can adjust the dates or whatever, and
Yeah.
a better chance of getting them in.
Weather and daylight. I mean,
Yeah.
period. Yeah.
Well, another week or so, or 2 weeks, the clock changes, so that
Yeah.
should be on our favor here. We talk about the strengths of the team all the time, right? This team, obviously pitching, I think you gentlemen would agree with that. You know, top down, our roster is really good when it comes to our staff. What are some of the more weaknesses of the team that you've really honed in on in 24 to say, hey, this is something we've identified as a staff that we can get better with, and if we do improve these areas, we'll be that much better in 24?
Well, I think number one, I wanted to improve team chemistry. In the past years, it seemed like we've had a lot of individuals that wanted to do well, but we weren't a cohesive group. It seemed like last year we had friction between the seniors and the juniors and so on. So number one goal this year was to have a better team chemistry. We've instituted team leadership groups. We've got team leaders on the varsity. It's Luke and Alex are going to be the team leaders. And then we've got JV leaders, and we've even got freshman leaders. And we've assigned some community service projects to them
Nice.
to try to help out. So that's number one, better team chemistry. Number two, offensive hitting. We've hit more live hitting this past offseason than ever before, and I think that's going to pay benefits.
What's the message to our hitters this year? What are we trying to drive home to them as far as their approach?
Well, it's funny you say approach because we've installed this ABC approach. Basically, the simplified version of that is when you're up there in an 0-0 count or a positive count, you're back in the box, and I'm going to let them take their rips. They're swinging to elongate, to make the park bigger, to hit the ball hard, to do damage, so to speak. Then when they get a strike or an even count, they're going to try to hit the ball up the middle and try to put it in play. Because I think last year we averaged about 7 strikeouts a game, maybe even more times, and that's just way too many. So we're going to try to cut down on our strikeouts. And then obviously if you get 2 strikes, try to get them in contact mode, get them up in the box on the plate, and put it in play. Now, have they all bought into it because they all want to be big bombers? We'll see.
Thanks, MLB.
But we are going to, and like I say, like AJ said, 1 run an inning. To break that down even a little further, we're going to shoot for, try to get a runner to third base with 1 out
Yeah.
and see what happens.
Nice.
I think the approach is fantastic. I really do. I think there's many goals inside the game that you've identified for your kids. And, you know, those are easy to look at instead of saying, hey, we want 10 hits a game. We got 6 in the second inning, and then we had to play defense the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, and it fell apart, right? Well, Coach, we accomplished our goal. We got 10 hits or whatever. You know, I think that breaking it up each inning is really dangerous, and it's really good, and it gives a kid that's 16, 17, 18 years old a shorter window to think through, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's going to be really positive. You graduated a lot. There's no question. You graduated a shortstop, a center fielder, a right fielder, a DH, a relief pitcher, and a utility player. 6 in general. And you've got to replace 2/3 of the middle of the field, basically, with a shortstop and a center fielder. So position changes. Grissinger goes to short, Franz moves over to center. How do you feel about those changes and players moving positions? And then what are you thinking about the holes then that some of those other departing kids that graduated, who are you going to plug in there? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll go ahead and speak to the infield, and I'll let Coach Beer speak to the outfield, since that's,
He babysits that.
yes. Infield-wise, I think Alex won't have any issues with short. I think 2 years ago, he wouldn't have been able to play shortstop. He just wasn't big and is strong enough.
Yeah.
This year, I think he's ready to do that. Second base, we got C.J. Cox coming back, who isn't our prototypical second baseman, but he'll get the job done there. First base, we're set with Luke and Logan, and Owen Shade may rotate in there depending on who wins the outfield battle. So we're good there. But then again, we have that black hole over at third base, and quite honestly, I've got 4 people right now working out there, from Holt to a sophomore, Trent Summers, to a freshman, Miles Farnsworth, and
Bonds, if you want to count Bonds.
And then we've even gave Ethan Bunce some
Yeah.
reps there at third, because there's a possibility that one day a week that he's not catching, he might be playing third base. So we're still fighting through those 4, and each of them have their own strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And it's really hard, like today, one to have an inter-squad scrimmage, which would have helped a long way, but hopefully we get our scrimmages in,
Yeah.
and that'll clear itself up a
Yeah,
little
it's one of the hardest things of coaching at this level is, when you don't have an indoor turf facility to be in every day, is that, taking ground balls, some guys look like, we used to call them Thursday All-Americans, right? I mean, they look great in the gym, and then you get them out on the field, and you're like, that's not the same kid. So, you do have that challenge, right, of coming up and figuring out, and it might take you a couple weeks.
Oddly, you say that, because we have a couple of those.
Right.
And I'm not going to mention names, but we've got a couple kids that, in the field house, we have the ability to set up a whole infield. It's a
Yeah.
full infield.
Yeah,
And, man, it's like, wow, okay, you're the guy.
yeah,
And then, like you say, go out in the grass and,
yeah. It's like a different sport.
oh, yeah, so that's what we're fighting through
Sure.
right now with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, outfield-wise, I've been very blessed. I've had Chase Hunt, I've had John Metzger, I've had Wyatt Mormon, I've had a lot of good outfielders, and then this year we come in and we have at least 2 holes. Michael, I'm excited for. He's obviously with his speed, taken the center field role. But like Coach Goff said and Brandon alluded to about looking good in the field house and then going outside, I thought I had kind of a nice mix. And we went outside a couple days this week, and I made him freeze the other night, and I still don't know.
Well, there's nothing like
and-
a fly ball, you can do turn and goes in the gym
Yep.
until you're blue in the face, but when you get outside and you see the sky and
Yep.
the guys tracking balls.
And
it's
you're
different.
hitting off wood fungo, or we're
Yeah.
feeding into our pitching machine and getting real high moon balls. We have a lot of guys working, and that's what I appreciate about them. They're working very hard,
Yeah.
and it's still a battle. I brought the whole herd in 9 through 12 the other night, and I said, listen, I'm not set on anything. I don't know. If you ask me today who my left fielder, my right fielder, my center fielder is, I'll tell you who my center fielder is.
Yeah.
That's it. Everybody else is battling for left and right. A lot of young guys battling for those spots. So I'm hopeful and appreciative of their work ethic, and I hope that they can continue to battle it out.
Now, you mentioned third base. Are any of those candidates that may not win that job potentials for the corner outfield positions? Or how's that working in that conversation?
Right now, Miles Farnsworth, he's looking to be, if not third base, at least our number 4 starter.
Okay.
Tyler Holt is working at third base and is a candidate for right field.
Okay.
Trent Summers is kind of one of those up-and-comers right on the bubble.
Okay.
Trying to find a spot for him. He got some outfield work in Wednesday night, I believe. So we'll kind of see. I mean, other outfield candidates, you might come to a game and see Luke Bryant out in right field. Or you might see Owen Shade out in right field.
Sure.
So we're trying to work through some of this, and it's just going to take, ideally, it'd be nice by Monday, we had, okay, this is it,
Right.
but
That rarely happens.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and it really rarely happens to go one step deeper when you graduate as much as you did.
Yep.
And the positions that you did, you had some of those set, and then you move them over to, I'll call them more premium positions. That's not a knock on right field. It's just the reality of the baseball field, right, and where they set up. And then you move one over, that's a hole. Then you move another one over, that's another 2 hole. And that's just kind of how that's worked. My next topic I wanted to get into is promising newcomers. He mentioned Miles Farnsworth.
Yeah.
This kid's a freshman, and I think he's just a baseball-only guy, if I'm not mistaken.
He played football this past year, was very successful in his football career. I'm kind of hoping that he continues his football career, but it's kind of looking like he is going to become a baseball-only kind of guy.
Okay, that was a plug to play football. You won't be disappointed by playing football for Coach Valentine. That's a little
Well, then you have all winter to lift and get ready for baseball. It's
Absolutely,
fine.
it makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. But, Coach Goff mentioned he's in the 4 hole in the pitching rotation, and he's a freshman. Something you don't see all that often. But this kid lets a rip about 83, 84, from
Okay.
what I've been told, and I guess he's got a little bit of a hook that goes along with it. So
My
it'll be
question,
interesting.
and sorry, Chris, my
Yeah.
question with guys that are freshmen like that is the mental approach and how are all of our young guys coming along, and what's the baseball IQ acumen of those guys?
So if you talk about a guy like Miles, okay, Miles comes in, he works every day. He's a pretty straight-laced guy. He comes in, he's ready to work and go. Mentally, that's a big thing we've talked about. Mentally, is he ready?
Yeah.
Personally, I think he is ready. I know he sees kind of a guy off on his own to work the mental part of the game.
Nice.
You look at other young guys, Nick Mangus, Tanner Wolf, guys like that, they're working very hard. Mentally, are they ready to rock and roll? They're baseball guys. I think they're ready to go too. So mentally, it's about us meeting, and we've had multiple meetings about guys. Do you want to bring them up, and are they everyday players? If they're not everyday players,
Right.
do you send them down and get work and then bring them up when you need them?
Yep.
And that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. But mentally, I think as a whole, we are in a much better place, especially with the young guys.
Home opener 3. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Coach.
No, go ahead.
Home opener 323 at Bud Plank Field at Archer Arrows Park. We invite everybody in the community to come out and support this team. We're going to have a huge donor day where everyone's going to be on hand that made the renovations at the park possible. We're excited, Brandon and I, are to call these games this year and watch Coach Beer and Coach Goff's kids compete in the OCC and then non-conference games, et cetera. Coach, thanks for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
It's fitting that it's raining and we're here.
And we've got Alex Grissinger. We just talked with Coach Goff. We're going to talk with a couple different players, Brandon Wells and Kris Mowry. And Alex, thanks for joining us. We're happy to be talking Arrows baseball, although the weather doesn't look anything like baseball, right? Let's just start with, what are your expectations this season? What are you looking forward to?
I'm just looking for another year of baseball. I think we should be good this year. I think we got a lot of talent. I think we got a lot of experience, and I'm just excited for another year.
Any individual or team goals you have in mind?
I think a big goal of ours is to always win conference. I think we want to win a few more games in the playoffs, and really just perform as a team, get along, and just have a good season together.
So, importantly, a position change for you. I feel like you've been, kind of moved all over the field your freshman and sophomore year. You started playing second base, you played a little outfield your freshman year, and then you roll over to third base, which has been an opportunity for someone to win that position for a long time around here, right? There's been several years where we've been looking for a third baseman, and Coach Goff and staff have put a lot of people there. You played really well there last year. We lost Camden to graduation, obviously, and he played shortstop here for
Who's
a
that?
long time.
Who did we lose?
Yeah, right, thanks. Number 7, according to Hudson. How about that? So you move over to shortstop this year. What are you thinking about that transition? You ready for that? Do you have a lot of experience playing shortstop?
I'm excited for it. I've played short basically my whole life, and honestly, I think it's easier than third. Third sucked for me. So short, I think it's really fun. You get a lot of range. You make a lot of plays, and I really like short.
Now, we did fix the issue that he's talking about at third base around here. There was this massive lip that looked like a speed bump.
Uh-huh.
That's gone. So now it's flat. So whoever the new third baseman is coming in, don't tell him that used to be there, right? So that's history. So they can charge all those balls, and they can go be aggressive and play accordingly. I'm looking forward to you playing shortstop. It's the position I played forever throughout my entire life. I love it. I think it's the number 1, 1A, and 1B position on the baseball field. If you don't have a shortstop on your baseball team's not set. I believe that wholeheartedly. And your responsibility to control the infield, know what the catcher's doing, et cetera, look behind you, the outfielders that they're positioned right. You ready for that too?
Yeah, I think it's like exactly what you said. You got to know where everybody should be. You got to know the situation. You got to know what depth to play at certain times in the game, and I think that's what comes with the position.
Talk to us a little bit about, just being a junior, taking that step towards, being more of a leader. You're going from an underclassman to an upperclassman, and what that looks like. You guys graduated quite a few guys last year. What's that look like from a role?
We graduated a lot of seniors, so I think there's a lot of positions open for leadership-wise. So as a junior this year, you got to step up a little bit. You got to talk more. You got to be a leader. And I think that's just kind of the role that me, Luke, and some other guys have stepped up in this year.
Tell me about the keys for 24. What is going to make you successful, one, and then more importantly, what's going to make the Arrows successful in 24?
For me, I just think it's getting out of my head, just playing a game I love. And then for the team, I think it's hitting. I think that's always been our issue. We don't always hit when we need to. I think the pitching's there. I think the defense is there. I think we just got to hit.
Tell me about Luke Bryant, and what do you expect from him this year? The big man coming back after being hurt a little bit last year, and clearly the ace of the staff. What do you expect from him?
I mean, he's nasty. I faced him the other day. He's looking really good. Fastball's good. Slider's good. I think everything's good. I think it's shaping up to be a good year for him.
Nice.
Favorite park in the OCC? Don't you dare say that.
I was going to go Worcester.
That'll work. That's 1B.
I think I'm going to go Worcester. Yeah. I think they have a nice field.
Now, just to be clear, Brandon, that's behind the newly renovated Bud Plank Field at Archer Arrows Park. Let's be honest, right? Because of what the Palace looks like now, that's number one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good answer. So looking back at some of your stats, you mentioned hitting. You're a good hitter, right? And I think what you said about getting in your own head, the reality is that happens with baseball. And the reality is, if you're successful, my dad taught me this when I was a young guy. Hey, man, if you're good 3 out of 10 times, they'll put you in the Hall of Fame. And that's really so true. But it comes down to those timely hits. It comes down when Coach Goff calls a bunt to get it down or a squeeze to get a run in. We've got a staff that's good enough on paper. Now, we'll see what happens on the field, right? We have to wait and see what happens in live action. But on paper, it's good enough to be really dangerous. Coach Goff told me one time over the winter, he said, look, Kris, I think the reality is if you showed this staff to anyone in this state, they'd say, I'll sign up and I'll take your staff from you, right? Yeah. There may be a couple other schools that are better than us with Moeller and one in our own conference, and Worcester's really good too, and some other bigger schools. But for a school our size, our pitching depth is really incredible. Now, that brings me to the next point. You threw a 5-inning, basically complete game that Brandon and I call, or perfect game, excuse me. It was a truly masterful piece. You had the slide piece, I didn't forget it, work into perfection. Do you think you get some time on the mound this year?
I think probably limited from last year, but I think I'm going to come in for some close opportunities.
Okay, all right.
Kris talked about your plate discipline, or really how you're a good hitter. And I look at your numbers and look at plate discipline, 17 walks, just 8 strikeouts. What's the key there?
I think really it's just when you step in the box, you got to have an approach. I think it's not just flailing the bat at anything. I think it's knowing what you can hit, knowing what you want to hit, and just reacting to the ball.
And probably not being afraid to get down to 2 strikes, right? And then changing your approach a little bit with 2 strikes. I think, from what I saw last year, I think you've done a good job of that. What was the off season like for you as far as lifting and those kinds of things?
It was a big swing change. Shortened up a little bit, got a lot more athletic in it, a lot of lifting, got faster, a lot of fielding, really just polishing up all the areas of my game.
Nice.
All right, last thing. Every pitch that gets received by the catcher, and the catcher throws back to the pitcher.
Here we go.
Back it up.
Yep.
I'm telling you, don't be like me that was told and told and told, and then the one time that you don't do it, it's errantly thrown back to the pitcher and a run scores from third base. Back that throw up every time.
Junior Alex Grissinger. All right, we're here with Michael Franz, junior outfielder. Michael, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it as always. Look, you're moving positions a little bit, sliding over to dead center, right? Taking Johnny Metzger's spot. How are you feeling about that?
Oh, I'm super excited to take that spot. Johnny, great player, great athlete in all 3 sports he did. It's big shoes to fill, but I believe I can do it.
What's the difference between going from a corner spot to that center field role?
Well, the center fielder, he's the boss in the outfield. Any ball he calls, he takes. It's his job to put the other outfielders in a position, and that's going to be much more important this year since the other outfielders we're going to have not played any varsity level outfield. So that job is much more important this year.
Nice.
Do you prefer to play a shallow center or a deeper center? to utilize your speed? Do you prefer to come in on the ball? I would have. Or to run back on the back side of the ball?
I do like playing deeper.
Okay.
I feel like I'm more comfortable running in and catching something than having to catch it over my head.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's easier.
And then the other thing, frankly, we play in a park. It's a big boy park, right? Dead center's 385, almost 400. I don't know what it is, but it's a long ways out there. And, you know, we always seem to have that wind blowing in from Catherine, right? So it's going to hold those baseballs up and be able to let you come in and get some more. There's very few balls, I guess what I'm saying, that seems to be hit over an outfielder's head at our park.
Yeah,
So
that's very true.
makes a lot of sense.
No, go ahead.
How excited are you to get 24 underway?
I've been looking forward to this ever since football ended. You know, I knew I wasn't playing basketball this year, so I knew I was going to spend a lot of time just doing baseball stuff, you
Sure.
know, lifting. And, yeah, I've been really looking forward to it.
I want to ask you about at the plate, because it looked like last year as the season went on, you got a little more comfortable. What's the kind of approach this year?
Stay relaxed, you know. Last
Yeah.
year, won't lie, I was definitely stressing in the box a lot.
Yeah.
It's a big jump from JV pitching to varsity pitching for sure.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to stay confident in yourself, believe in what you can do, and just stay relaxed.
Baseball is so mental, right? I mean, Chris mentioned it, earlier when you talk about failure, you have to be able to deal with failure. What do you do when you have a bad game and you go 0 for 3 or 1 for 4 or something like that? What's the approach going into the next game?
You know, you just got to, if you got video, you got to look at what you did. You know, you got to just ask people around you what they see wrong, because the guys on our team, they're really smart when it comes to baseball. You know, I can ask Luke or Alex or Tyler. You know, I trust all those guys, and they'll tell me what's wrong. You know, they won't sugarcoat it. They'll tell me. Or I'll ask my dad. You know, my dad, he's taught me pretty much everything I know. So
Well, don't overanalyze it too. I would just give you that advice. Don't overanalyze it. You got a nice swing. Don't try to do too much.
yeah, you know, I don't listen to him as much as I should. You know, he's always telling me stuff. You know, sometimes I just brush him off. You know, like, oh, I know what I'm doing, but in the end, he's always right. You know, so.
There's something about dads. The older the sons get, the more wisdom they really feel dads have,
Yeah.
right? It's amazing how that works.
They have to undo part of the, Dad doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I got it.
So you have a weapon that you can't teach. You have a weapon that you're just touched by the hand of God to have, and that's speed, right? You know, Wells was a 5'2", 40 guy. I was a little faster than that.
He means last month when I ran it, not when I was 17.
Right.
Right.
You're 40, I don't know what it is, but it's really good. Here's the key that I think when I watch you play baseball. You got to get the ball on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can beat out a ball that's hit to the in between the 5-6 hole where the shortstop's got a backhand or the third baseman's got to field a glove side and do a spin and throw to first. You can beat that ball out, right? I've seen you do it. There's no question about that. I think bunting is a key for you too. If you can get the ball on the ground and utilize that weapon you have. And the reality is, if you pull the third baseman in, it makes that 5-6 hole that much more dangerous to get a ball shot through there or something down the line, right? And those lead to hits. You get something down the line with your speed, that's a double, right? Because the left fielder's not going to come in and get the ball that quick, right? And everybody's pulling in. It's just, it's so dangerous. Now, when we get you on base, are you thinking, what's your mentality about taking second base? Are you waiting to get a sign? Do you have the automatic green light? Is there a count that you like to run on? How's that work for you?
I believe I have the automatic green light. But,
Well,
I do. So, yeah, it depends on the situation. Early in the game, we're really willing to take risks, so it doesn't matter the count to me. If I see the chance, I'll take it. He's got to watch the pitcher. Hopefully, he can try to get a pickoff move first, try to draw that, so we know what it looks like. So it's not just for me, but for the whole team. We know what we're looking for. The guy's going to pick us off. I know the catcher's arm strength. Pitch count. That definitely can help in determining what pitch is coming. You know, if it's an 0-2 pitch, you're probably not going to see a fastball, or if it's a fastball, it's not going to be in the zone. So, obviously, it's either easier to steal an off speed or something in dirt. So, it just really depends on the situation.
You know, one thing that when we played two, we always said is he's a one-looker or he's a two-looker.
Mm-hmm.
Means when he's here and he's set, he looks once and back to the plate and he goes, or he looks twice. It's rare that you find a high school kid that mixes that up. those are the nuanced details that a lot of people don't look for, but that's the reality, that when you get honed in on a craft, and your craft is stealing second base and third base, et cetera, it's really good at what you do, you start picking up those nuances. And that's when you have to have the leadership, too, to go into the dugout, right, and say, hey, man, he's a one-looker. I was over there for 8 pitches, and he looked each time one time. And you can use that as instruction for your team, you know, assets to have knowledge, and then you can use that when you're on the base pass, too, to say, you know, that's odd. That's 5 times in a row. He's looked over at me one time, and then he goes back to the plate, right? So, you know, it's those little nuances to pick up on, too, and to make you in the Arrows that much more dangerous in 24.
Yep.
Michael, what do you think the keys are of the season for you guys as a team?
Hitting the ball, for sure.
I'm noticing a pattern.
Yeah,
Me too.
As Alex said,
Yeah.
that's our number one issue. We have basically the same pitching rotation as last year, and our pitching is probably the best part of our team.
Okay.
And defensively, we're very strong. Got a lot of strong arms, got a lot of speed this year, probably more speed than I've ever played with. So yeah, it really comes down to hitting.
How do we take that jump then? Like, is it an approach? Is it, you know, is it mental, or is it like we want to be aggressive? What do you think that is?
It's just reps, really.
Okay.
I mean, we've done a lot of live at bats this offseason, which I think is going to help a lot when it comes to game time. Because
Off live pitching or a cage or machine?
Like
Okay.
actual live pitches.
Yeah.
Live pitching way different than machine. You
Absolutely.
can stand it against a machine and
Yep.
you know
Anybody can
pound
hit
the
a
ball.
machine eventually,
Exactly.
right.
It's all, that's just like rhythm and timing. But
Yeah.
when you put a real pitcher in there, it's a whole lot different.
Nice. Yeah.
What team in the OCC you like to compete against the most?
Worcester for sure. You know, three conference championships in a row. So if we want to win the conference, we got to go through them first, and then it's our first conference series, so that'll be a real test.
And then the second conference series is,
Mount Vernon.
so this couldn't be scripted any more vital out of the gate, right? We open OCC play, our second home game is Worcester here. We're gonna have Bowen, who's the defending OCC pitcher of the year, and he's undefeated, Brandon, in OCC play.
Time to take him down.
And he'll be opposing Luke Bryant, who 2 years ago was OCC pitcher of
Yeah.
the year. Injury bit him and cut his season short last year. You know, that's a marquee matchup, and big chance for the Arrows to get a chance or a win over Worcester and really set the tone in the OCC for you guys in 24.
Do you like playing them early?
Sure. I don't
Well, we
mind.
tried playing them late for 2 years in a row. It didn't work out so well, so put them first.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, we can play them wherever, whenever. I'm fine with it.
I love it. That's junior Michael Franz. All right, you just heard from A.J. Beer, Rick Goff, Alex Grissinger, and Michael Franz, a couple of players on this year's 2024 Arrows baseball team. You're watching the Arrows baseball preview here on the Arrows YouTube channel. Brandon Wells and Kris Mowry. Kris, final thoughts as you look at the season ahead of us, what you're expecting, hopes, all of those things for this year's squad.
Coming off a 12-12 season and an 8-6 third place finish in the OCC, the Arrows, according to Rick Goff and A.J. Beer, they're not reloading, or they're not rebuilding, excuse me,
Correct.
they're reloading,
Yeah.
according to the coaches. That's a great thing to hear, that they don't think the cupboard's bare after graduating 6 seniors, a couple of them playing premium positions as well in the infield and outfield. So I'm going to be real curious, but this season comes down to me right out of the gate. We've got OCC defending pitcher of the year, Brady Bowen.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 year ago OCC pitcher of the year, Luke Bryant. They meet game 1 of OCC play. This is like a traditional opening day,
Yeah.
right? With the Indians or the Guardians
Yep.
and Tigers or whoever it
Sure.
might be, where
Yep.
you used to have Kluber and Scherzer or whoever it might be. That's really cool, and that's what we're going to get to see and we're going to get to call. That's
Yeah.
a home game here on a Tuesday. So it doesn't get any easier. We talked about this a little bit, but then it goes to Mount Vernon, then it goes to New Philly. So it's going to be vital,
Yep.
vital for this Arrows staff and squad to get off to an early start.
For me, Kris, when I look at it, we have such a great pitching staff on paper. I want to make sure that those guys stay healthy,
Yeah.
and that their mental approach is the aggressive and attack, and the same thing on the offensive side, right? We need to attack. But for a team that is going to have some youth. And some new guys in different spots. I think with such a great staff, the OCC is always loaded. It seems like,
Yeah.
and it's loaded for bear this year as well. But we need to take care of details better this year.
Yeah.
We need to take care of the little things, and I think you mentioned it earlier in the open about that as well. We got to take care of the details, and Coach Goff and Coach Beer talk about that as well. I think in order to, because the margins are slim in these games in baseball, particularly in the OCC and when you get into the OHSAA playoffs, the margins are so narrow that you have to take care of the details really well.
Look, you get a runner at second base, you're on defense. You get a runner at second base, and you got a 1-2 count, let's say,
Yep.
and you're like, I'm going to throw that 58-footer.
Yeah.
Well, you might get strike 3, but it might go to the backstop.
Right.
And that runner at second goes to third, and that runner at first might beat it out at first. And now you're first and third with 1 out instead of, a runner at second with 2 outs. It's just those little details you mentioned are massive in this game.
And on the other side, Chris, from the offensive side, when you got a guy on second with no outs, and you get in that 1-2 count and you're the hitter, right? Those are the little things of trying to hit the ball to the right side and putting that ball in play,
100%.
right? And hitting behind the runner so you can get to the guy even closer to the plate. Because once you're on third, there's so many ways to score, right? We talked about that a lot when I was a head coach, how many ways there are to score from third base. So anyway, the Arrows will get rolling here March 23rd, the opening ceremony. You want to talk about that just briefly?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have a field dedication to everyone in the community on March 23rd. You'll be emceeing, so thank you for doing that.
I'm going to do my best Tom Hamilton down there. Do I have to wear a tux?
You'll look good no
Okay,
matter what.
all right.
And
That's right.
you'll
That's
have
true.
the pipes ready to go, I'm sure. So the field dedication will start at 12 noon. Baseball starts at 12:30. We'll be having the Archers join us. Scott Connery will join us. Aaron Harris will join us, and then some members from the community that help make this possible as well. And we're going to do it right and pay due respect to these individuals and families that made all of these improvements possible. And I'm really excited to put a bow on this. We've been dealing with this for let's call it a year. It's been a little less than that, but nonetheless, to see where that went with an idea to where it's at now is amazing. And it's really, really a testament to our community and our community members who saw the vision and the need and made this a reality and came to fruition.
And I want to make sure that, we mention the broadcast this year will be even better because the press box is markedly closer to the net than the backstop, which is markedly closer to home plate. We're going to have a much better angle for you guys out there that when you're watching, and probably a couple other cameras as well.
Yeah.
So looking forward to what that's going to bring to you guys that are going to be all over the country watching the games.
The Wickham and Hess second inning guests
All right.
who are going to join us every contest, and we'll have some prominent community members, some ACS members. We'll kick it off on our first broadcast on the 23rd. We'll have our donors join us. So we'll have the Archers, we'll have Connery, we'll have Aaron Harris, and so on. That'll come in inning by inning. And then we'll get into the kind of our normal pattern with the 26th, and that'll be with Superintendent Steve Paramore will join us as well on the 26th, and then we'll get into it the rest of the year. It's always one of my favorite segments.
Yeah.
And it's not only that, we kind of get a break in the action. We still obviously announce and call the action,
Right.
but we get to bring these community and Arrow alum and Arrow, dignitaries, if you will, to the community and give them a chance to get to know these people that make a lot of these things possible and dive into these people's lives a little bit deeper and bring the message out.
Well, and the beauty is with video, we can have those conversations with folks while people are still watching the game and listening to our guests. So, I appreciate everybody joining. We're glad to be calling games again this year. Thanks to the Ashland City Schools for having us back as normal, and all of our generous sponsors out there for helping promote this as well and getting us on the air.
Yeah.
For Kris Mowry, I'm Brandon Wells saying God bless, Godspeed, and go Arrows!
Go Arrows!